In the nearly 7 years since the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 first graders and 6 adults were murdered, there has been a lot of focus on the issue of gun control, especially the lack of action in D.C. to deal with the epidemic of gun violence in this country. But some parents of the victims, they have also found other ways to deal with this tragedy, and also they try to prevent the next one in the process. Scarlett Lewis is one of them. She lost her son Jesse on that horrific day. Jesse, credited with saving the lives of other classmates by yelling for them to run when the shooter's gun jammed. In the wake of that tragedy, Scarlett formed the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement. That organization focuses on teaching social and emotional skills to school kids to help them cope with the stresses of life. They are holding a benefit concert a week from this Sunday in Danbury, Connecticut. It features John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band, amongst others. All of the details, you can see them right there on your screen. Andrew, he recently spoke with Scarlett Lewis. She, again, the founder and chief movement officer of the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement.
Scarlett, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. You lost your son, Jesse, at Sandy Hook. He is the inspiration for your movement. Tell us about Jesse and what you know about his final moments, if you would.
Yeah, so Jesse's final moments consisted of saving 9 of his classmates' lives. The gunman had murdered his principal and counselor right outside the door, and then turned into Jesse's first grade classroom. And his gun either jammed or ran out of bullets. And during the short delay, Jesse called to 9 of his classmates to run, and they said it's because he called for them to run that they ran, and he was able to save those lives.
There's so much of your experience that I cannot imagine and put myself in your shoes. What was, when you first learned about that, what was your reaction? What's your reaction now when you think about it?
I think that that is very much who Jesse was. And when I heard that, you know, I had been thinking, waiting at the firehouse for all of those hours, hoping that he would be found and come back to us. And then when he didn't, I thought that he had probably done something very brave if he wasn't coming back. And it turned out that he did. So I wasn't surprised.
It's been more than 6.5 years since Sandy Hook, and seemingly, at least on the national level, no movement on gun safety, no movement on preventing gun violence. What's your reaction to that fact, and why don't you think more has happened?
I looked at what was happening after Sandy Hook, and I saw that both sides, I felt, were really coming from a point of fear. And I thought about, well, first of all, I didn't want to be against something. I wanted to be for something. And I thought, what's the most powerful thing that transcends fear, that really could have prevented the tragedy? And I thought that it was love. And I decided to focus on education. And a lot of that was from a message that Jesse left on our kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. Now, those words were phonetically spelled because he was in first grade and just learning to write, but they really directed my efforts. And I was connected to a doctoral professor at Western Connecticut State University, Dr. Chris Cook. He came in, I said, how do I get this message into schools? Because I know that if the shooter had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, the tragedy would never have happened. It was as simple as that. And he told me that it was called social and emotional learning. I'd never heard about social and emotional learning. And in my research, I found that it is scientifically proven to reduce and prevent the majority of the suffering that we're seeing in our schools that then translates out into society. And that includes not only school violence, but bullying, substance abuse, suicide, anxiety, a lot of the issues that we're experiencing that are just escalating now, we could proactively reduce and prevent the suffering before it starts.
Is that social and emotional learning just not being taught anywhere? Where had it been taught in the past? Is it something that we had and are now lacking?
Well, that's a really good question. So it's taught in the home. Social emotional learning is basically learning how to get along, learning how to have positive relationships, learning how to manage our emotions, learning how to make responsible decisions, learning how to actually grow through and grow from difficulty. That's social and emotional learning. And yeah, we're learning it throughout life.
So many other families who have unfortunately had to go through what you've gone through have focused on guns or one specific issue. Hard to find a movement that focuses on the lessons that you're teaching with Jesse's movement. Has it been difficult finding a footing, finding a path forward? I mean, if it was a gun policy, you just find a gun group and sort of go with that. Has it been difficult sort of finding your own way with this?
It has gone viral, actually, because the need is so great. We released our social and emotional learning program. We call it a next generation lifespan program. And we released it 3 years ago. It's now being taught in every state and 78 countries. And this is all by word of mouth. And it's all by individuals across the country who want to be part of the solution, who believe in social emotional learning and choosing love and what we're doing, and are helping us spread this incredibly powerful movement.
The 4 traits that I saw on the movement's website: courage, gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion in action. Why those 4 traits, and why are they the key to unlocking so much more?
Well, we call that the formula for choosing love. And that formula can actually lead you to thoughtfully responding with love, which is kindness, caring, concern, and compassion in any situation, circumstance, or interaction. When you choose love in your thoughtful response, you take your personal power back. You literally take your control back and you make the world a better place. When you react with anger, hatred, and resentment, you give your personal power away. You literally become a victim. And so we chose those very carefully, and they actually are derived from Jesse's message of nurturing, healing love. So we start with courage because everything starts with courage.
It's really impressive because so much of the focus on organizations or movements or whatever the case may be after these mass shootings is on the victims and preventing their victimhood or removing the tools. This approach really seems more aimed at the young man who took your son's life and being able to prevent some of the development that went astray for him, which really seems like a unique approach.
When I look at the shooter's life, I see that he did everything right until the last couple of years of his life. He had needs that were known that weren't met. He cried out for help in many different ways. He waved big red flags. And so, the key is to being present and to addressing needs that are known. And I actually feel compassion as well, because I know that somebody that could do something so heinous must have been in a tremendous amount of pain. In fact, one of the most important lessons that I've learned over the past 6 years is that there are only 2 kinds of people in the world: good people and good people in pain. And that's a positive statement because there's always something we can do to help ease another's pain.
You have a big benefit coming up later this month. Tell us a little bit about it.
We do. It's at the Danbury Ives Center, and we have John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band playing, and the theme of the concert is Hearts on Fire.
And how can people find out more information about it?
They can find out on our website and on our social media, and we welcome everyone there. It's going to be a great family fun event.
Finally, if we've learned anything in the 6.5 years since that day, it's that more of these events are going to happen, and more parents are unfortunately going to find themselves in the position that you have and do find yourself in. As somebody in that position, there's also something of a disconnect. People think it's going to happen to other people in other places. Is there anything that you can and want to say to parents out there who may be looking at that sort of disconnect to let them know, connect to them with what you've endured?
Well, I think that everyone's feeling a certain amount of anxiety because we know that it's going to happen again. We just don't know where. And the opposite of anxiety is action. There is something that we can all do to be part of the solution. We can all choose love. You can make sure that your schools have a comprehensive social and emotional learning program that's taught with fidelity. That means embraced by everyone. If they don't, introduce them to Choose Love, because everything that we have is at no cost. Really, this is the #1 way to have a safe school, by cultivating safety from the inside out of every child.
It is truly remarkable that you have managed to find such a positive from the midst of such a horrible tragedy. And I thank you for your efforts. I thank you for speaking with us. I wish you the best of luck. Scarlett Lewis of the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.